What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 139 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genre. I am Megan, self-proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author, sometimes a returning guest, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you could catch a previous interview about a book that you've finished. Today's episode features a chat with Kerri Schlottman. We're talking about her book, Daytime Moon. That book is available now. I really did like this book, and I really enjoyed this conversation with Kerri. She's so fun to talk to, and she let me rant on about how she put her characters through it, particularly through just a lot of grief and loss. So just a heads up. I do recommend it, but just a heads up, fair warning for you. Some spoilers do pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So, as I said before, if you don't know why I'm saying that she puts her main character through it, hit pause, add this episode to your playlist, and pick up a copy of Daytime Moon. This episode will be here when you are ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am saying what the fuck to the author for making me feel things. Just please be mindful around listening ears. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Kerri. So today we've got Kerri Schlottman. We are talking about her book Daytime Moon that comes out on May 12th. Kerri, thank you so much for joining me today. I just finished this book. It's fresh in my brain. Like I was telling you before, I felt all the feelings, and it was like this it I didn't know what to expect, but the storytelling and your writing style was, once I got used to it, it was so lovely. And but still I was just like, I loved all the characters and I loved where you went with it, even though I was like, at one point I just had to prepare myself for like, you put our girl through it. You put your girl through it for the whole thing. But it was just so profound and insightful. And I'm excited to talk about all the things today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you about it too.
Perfect. Thank you. Could you please provide a summary of the book so that people can follow along with the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, it's so hard to talk about this book without having spoilers. So I think we're going to have at least some spoilers in
It's all good. It's all good. Yep.
it. Forget about the spoilers while they're reading, and I think it'll still be new to them even if they hear it before they read. But the story Daytime Moon is about Issa Calder, who is living in New York City, having left the Salton Sea, which is out in the Southern California desert, 10 years beforehand after a trauma happened with her twin sister. Her brother comes to basically fetch her and tell her it's time to come back home. The man who raised them is dying. He has terminal cancer. And so Issa goes back to the Salton Sea. So in some ways, it's a bit of a kind of a familiar story about having to return home and deal with what's waiting you there. So when she's there, she has to face all the sort of issues and traumas that she left behind that really were the catalyst for her leaving. And then when Dane, the man who raised them, does pass away, he leaves her and her brother both a letter that sets them on a very big quest to find family members that they didn't know they had. So she and her brother travel up and down the California coast. And meanwhile, she's also trying to piece together her mother's story. Her mother died in childbirth, so she's trying to piece together her mother's story and also really understand who she is and what family means and what home means throughout the whole process.
Yeah, it was really fun to go along that journey with them and also to see how they were handling it because she had to she'd been running away and then she just had to like, nope, like the jig is up, like it's time to deal with it. And because she's like in her late 20s, right? So yeah, because I'm like, I take notes while I read these books to like just get myself acquainted. That's how I just work it out in my brain and to prepare to talk to authors. And I just remember being like, wait, was she homeless? Like, oh, she was just a nomad. But it was also, I couldn't relate to her, but I felt like I maybe have some people in my life who are a little like that, where they're like, avoidant avoiding trauma, and they're just not, maybe they're not ready. But it was also like, I felt for her, but also I was like, hey, girl, time is up. You just gotta suck it up, and it's time to go through it. And I will get into it, but I loved Cole. Like, he propelled the story so much. If he wasn't who he was, she would not have had a, like, for lack of better words, a fire lit under her ass, you know what I mean? Like, she was like, okay, fuck. And then just a lot of things are heartbreaking. And then I have several bones to pick with you, but they're tiny bones, I feel like. It was just like, I understand why you made this decision, but whatever, still. Okay. I want to start out with your background because is there second book or
Technically, this is my, oh gosh, sixth book.
okay, never
My
mind, sorry.
But as far so the first four books I wrote were published by very small publishers. And according to the publishing world, this is my second book.
Mhm.
Is how it works with them. But technically I have, yeah, this will be my sixth book. And the other four are three of the other four are still available actually. Actually, four of the other six are available still.
Okay, so then so that's like I imagine this experience was really different from the other ones that you've released. And so I would explore your experience with that with releasing Daytime Moon, like any big lessons learned, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the first one that I had an agent for, which was actually just from a publishing standpoint, like such a big difference because I have like
Yeah.
support and have a team. And I worked with Unnamed Press, which is a mid-sized independent publisher in LA, and they're just fantastic. Like they were so supportive and just incredible to work with. So that was like what set apart some of the other books from this one. My last book, Tell Me One Thing, also came out with an independent publisher. And so I had a little bit of that support, but Unnamed Press is really so incredibly professional. And that it makes such a huge difference to an author to have like people, people on your
Yeah.
side, like working.
Who will like advocate for you, who are like kind of help hype you up and yeah.
That's right. And then to really have someone who you're just in such close contact with. My editor is so fantastic. And she's used to me sending like constant emails being like, what about, how do I do this? I'm like so patient with the whole
They're
process.
like, "Can you hold my hand a little bit?" Like
A little bit. Also because with the other books, I really did all my own work on them. Even with Tell Me One Thing, my other sort of more professional book, I really had to do a lot of all the promoting had to be all on me, all that sort of work. So this was the first time I actually had people really helping to support all aspects of it, and it's made a huge difference because now I can have do authors. I have to do a lot, no matter who you publish with, but even if it's a big publisher, but I don't feel as anxious. I was realizing I'm like, oh, it's coming out in a little over a month, and I'm not like having panic attacks every day, which is a good thing.
yeah, you're like it reminds you like, "Oh, there's someone else that" like, I have a little network. I have, like you said, like, a little team. I feel like in almost any aspect of your life or any industry that you're working in, when you're so used to doing things on your own and then all of a sudden you're working with someone who's got like on the same level or kind of in the same on the same page and kind of understands it, maybe has a little bit more specialization, a little more expertise into it or a little more experience into it, it does put you at ease so much.
Totally.
Like I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a
Absolutely.
huge difference with everything, I think, in life. To have someone to help you to have your people is really great.
Yeah, no, 100%. Even if to have people to be like, I got you, even if they have no idea what they're doing either. It's just even just to, like, know that someone is like, "What do you need?" But, yeah, Unnamed Press, I do like them. I've had a couple of Laura Venita Green.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was a previous guest, and she was really fun, and it was, like, the same I don't know if Unnamed Press does similar like, the same kinda genres or genre family, but hers was also the same kinda eerie, lyrical, where we're not sure where you're taking us. And then but we still are like we at least for me as a reader, I won't speak for everybody in general, but I was engaged and I was like, "Where are you taking me?" And then I was like, "I don't even know what to think," because sometimes I'm onto it, but then I'm wrong. Because like there was at one point we can edit this out if this is a spoiler, and I was like, "Wait, is Cole?" Or no, I was like, "Is Dane the baby in the photo?"
Yeah.
I was writing in my notes in all caps and exclamation points. I was like, "Wait a second." So it's like again, like, my notes become a little unhinged like a roller coaster, but that's what talking to her that kind of reminded me of, where it was like, yeah, I didn't know, but I was here for it. I was here for it.
I
Yeah.
think like disorientation, I think is really interesting in a book. Like I do like a book where I know what's happening sometimes just because it's a little reassuring. But I also like books. I love Laura's book because I had the same sensation with it where I was like, what is going to happen next? And she jumps around in it in a way that I thought was so clever. She's actually helping me
Yeah.
with my book. She's going to be my conversation partner.
Oh, yay. Oh, that's gonna be so fun.
Yeah. So she's amazing. And Yeah, so I think with mine, sometimes I try to, whatever the character's feeling, I try to also structure into the book. So a little bit of that, like questioning yourself as a reader, like what exactly is real here? Because Issa questions that kind of thing. She's not totally sure. She has intuition in this book that kind of guides her a bit, but it's often very wrong or she misinterprets it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I'm
It's like she doesn't realize it until it's not too late, but it's happening, and she's like, "Wait," like you said, like, she's wrong or she's not sure. She knows, "Okay, this is a sensation I'm feeling," but then that she's not really sure, like and then one of the first indications that we get of that, where it was, like, the big tragedy where she was like, "I thought it was me," and I'm like, "Holy shit." Like, that is so heartbreaking because she's just, like, focusing on herself,
yeah.
and then she didn't realize it wasn't her. It wasn't happening to her, and that, like, because that happens within the first few chapters of the book where that's revealed, and I was like, "Okay, Kerri." I was like
Yeah. So what you're for the readers, what you're talking about is Issa. One of the reason why she left the Salton Sea where she grew up is because her twin sister died in essentially basically a prank like that her and her brother Cole were pulling on their sister. And yeah, she carries that trauma, but she had envisioned it for a long time before it happened. But she, because they're identical twins, she thought it was her that she was seeing. And so that mirroring is something that, and reflections are big like symbols in the book to bring that idea to the surface in the narrative. The idea that the doubling, the twinning, that kind of connection.
I thought that was so powerful to include the fact that, like, when she touched on the fact that people were reacting to her as an identical twin after after her sister had passed. Like, she sees the initial reaction in people, like, the shock of, like, they have to remind themselves, "Oh, it's not her sister, it's her." Like, "Oh, is she really still here? No." And then she for her to have to deal with that as a teenager, her frontal lobe is not fully developed. And then even going on in her and as her years go by, like, she tries to run away from it, but then she'll see a reflection of herself, and she'll be like, "Fuck, it's my sister." And then she'll be like, has to remind herself. And that's I feel like that was such a crazy detail and experience to include that was so, like, powerful because it's not that sort of thing is not gonna go away. Maybe with the other people, they would get used to it, but with her, she's still seeing that even 10 years later. She's still seeing her sister in the reflection, and that's, like that was just it makes it all more heartbreaking 'cause as I can imagine, like, how her older brother was on top of all that, how Cole was, where he was dealing with it too because he lost a very close sister. They all had a good relationship, obviously, and then he's dealing with his own grief, his own trauma, and then um he's dealing with that too. But then he's on his own,
Yeah.
and that was, like, so sad. And for him, like Cole, I loved him so much, and he was just like anytime he was, like, being a little harsh or unfavorable, like, he had so much patience. He had so much patience, and good on him for just saying, "Okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna go get her," because and I when we see how he is in his environment, and then Issa reflects on that, she's like, "I missed all this," and she was surprised to see how much her brother had grown and how he had grown to, like, "Oh, he's just gonna go break up a fight? What?" Like, but she's worried, and, like, it was, like, another Friday night for him. It was so I thought that, like, those little interactions and those character, like, realizations and like, those reveals and about little things here and there, just, like, you could show so many things by just other events and how the characters react to it. I thought it was, like I don't know, I think I liked Cole a little bit more than I liked Issa. I loved Issa, but I think I liked Cole a little bit more just because of, like, man, I could respect his patience, and I can respect, like, even when he did his shit, he earned losing his shit. Like, that was a time and place for him to lose it.
Yeah.
It's like,
In that moment, I was at some point when I was that was in the it was in like maybe the second or third revision of the book. I was like, Cole needs to gets to freak out at some point because he is such a rock and he is so dependable. And I was like, what would it take to really piss him off to the point where he's just like, no, like I'm done. And yeah, so they have that moment eventually. And in this quest of they're trying to put their family together, and something happens along the way with one of the family members that they find, and it's just too much for him. And you have indicators that he's going in that direction, like he's starting to lose his patience with the fact that at some point he's a willing participant in this journey, and then at some point he feels a bit dragged around by Issa, and I think that
And
that's
he's
the snap.
you could tell he's tugged in each direction. Like he wants to be supportive and he's curious too, but then he's also like, I just want to be done with this shit. And then he's like, okay, you know what? And he's like mad, and then he's like, this is what you do. It's like it all came out, and I was like, okay, cool, let's do this.
Throw it out, throw it down.
Exactly. That's why I think I'm just like a sucker for character growth or just for character interactions because it's like the dialogue and also just as you're leading the reader up to it. And maybe it got to a point because, yeah, like you said, like we see things leading up to it where he's kind of like struggling with it. And then it's finally like, okay, here it goes. Here we go. Okay. There's so much to talk about. Okay. What Okay, so like talking about maybe this more sensitive themes, because like I said, you put your girl through it.
Mhm.
It was so heartbreaking. I'm just sitting there reading and I'm like, and then another one, like sound like DJ Khaled, like another one. Like she just lost. And it was hard, even though it seemed like she couldn't no maybe even Cole too, they couldn't quite catch up with everything,
Yeah.
even though we're seeing it mostly through Issa's point of view. And so I kind of want to explore like how you navigated a lot of those like really dark subjects, a lot of those dark themes, sensitive themes. Because I would say maybe it's like potentially triggering, but
Mhm.
only, like, maybe just the loss or, like, the unknown
Yeah.
of a loss, because otherwise, there's not really, like, violence or any of those other ugly things. It's just but it's a lot of loss. It seems like it's, like, one
Yeah.
after the other, and that is what unfortunately propels Issa to take the next step, and then to be curious and take the next step, and to be curious and take the next step. But then she eventually meets it's like you kept adding it to her ragtag crew as a result. So I saw it as like, okay, she's going through it, but then she gained something from it.
Yeah.
And like to not make up for it, but I don't know what the right like maybe phrase is, but it's like she got some answers, she got some comfort every time she went searching and seeking out or just fulfilling a request, right? Or fulfilling something of herself or someone else. And so I want to explore how you navigated that because this book, it's heavy for like 70% of it. There's like little spurts here and there where it's like a little hope or a little like positivity, a little optimism, but it's still a lot is we're very much in Issa's point of view where she's dealing with um heartbreak after heartbreak.
Yeah. I think the first thing is that there is a lot of death in the book, and then some of it has happened a long time ago. Her mother dies in childbirth, so that's like really long time ago, and then her sister died like a decade basically before the book starts. And the thing about that, without having any of those emotions resolved, and I don't know that you ever do recover from that kind of trauma, like which is something that I'm exploring in the book, like how durational it is, and then when something else happens that's more immediate, how it just reignites all that trauma. So it feels like, I think in many ways that makes the book feel like there's even more loss in it than there is because it's unresolved and it's
Oh,
linked.
absolutely.
So it just kind of
That's a good point.
it just keeps heaping on her. There's a moment, so she's a tarot reader because she jokes that she really can't do anything else because she's dropped out of society in a certain way. She's very anti-capitalist. She just wants like simplicity, and which does become a point of contention for her in the book with her partner that she's with.
Yeah, that's another tangent we could
Yeah.
go off on. Yeah.
But part of that, the reason I bring up the tarot now in this is like she does a tarot reading at some point where the death card comes up, and she talks about how that card is really about transformation, and that yes, death is this really can be this really traumatic, horrible idea, and it can also be the catalyst to changing something, right? Changing states or changing the situation. And so I used it in that way. Like her life almost has like the death card is like a present in her, ominous kind of around her. And it's like you just mentioned, like every time there's two deaths that happen almost back to back, which she acknowledges feels really unfair to her. But they do catalyze her. They force her to out of a place of that, like that place that she's sheltered in within herself that did allow her to run away for 10 years and not really stay good in good touch and not go back to where she was from to visit family. Something had to break her out of that. And so these two moments are they are breaking points for her. They force her to like have to confront the fact that she's not really dealing with these things. And so they were purposeful. It was interesting because we know already, just it happened so early on that the man who raised them, Dane, passes away. He has terminal cancer. But her friend also ends up passing away and went around a lot on that one. I was like, is there a way, is there a version of this book where that doesn't happen? And I couldn't connect up the sides of the book in the way that I wanted to without it happening. And it's a heartbreaking thing. Like, I didn't necessarily want that to have to happen in the book, but I also felt like she needed like another push at that moment, like the next step of push. And I think that that was a way for me at least to do that. And also there's a social commentary about that too. Her friend passes away because she can't afford healthcare, which is a real problem in this country.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And then you made it like it made a thing where she was like, oh, she was waiting on this money and she just gave it to her friend because so that she could get, and that's, yeah. And that's like, so uh, it was like subtle, but not so subtle, but still like a passing mention. And I was like, oh my God, like that just makes it so much
no,
worse.
no. There's a lot. The other thing, like the whole reason for writing this book for me was to like actually think about climate and ecological collapse as like
Yeah,
the idea of home. And so that theme is pretty heavy in the book too. There's these sort of in it as a setting. There's things like there's mentions of whales are stranding, the birds are dying. There's all these things happening that are happening around us right now. And so part of writing this book was for me to like just think through that. Like, what is it? I have a I don't know. I have a really bizarre feeling I carry in my body all the time for the fact that we're living in a climate, in a earth that's falling apart around us, and that it's such a helpless feeling. Because, like, yeah, you can recycle, you can eat
100%.
these things, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, not on the grand scale. It does matter, but like, you need everyone to do these things.
Yeah.
That was the impetus for the book. And then the setting at the Salton Sea where they live is that place is such a I don't know, it's so hard to explain if you haven't seen it in real life, but I first found out about it from Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations because he went out there. There's like one
I'm gonna Google it right now. Salton
uh,
Sea.
so Salton Sea was formed when with a brief it had been formed and unformed over time like a long time ago and then
Like it was unintentional, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
a dam in the Colorado River broke, basically flooded this basin. So this is outside of Palm Springs. If you keep going east outside of Palm Springs, you will run right into it. It's huge. It's like 340 square miles. So massive.
Oh, is this the real color? What's the color of it right now?
It changes, but
I was gonna say I'm seeing different
it can be
Google Images is like, what do you need? What do you want? Like,
yeah, it's like no. So the whole point of that body of water is that it doesn't have any fresh source anymore. So in the 50s, it became this like super hot spot. Like all the people from Palm Springs and LA would go out there, and it was like really booming. And then because it didn't have any fresh water source, the salinity rose. And then there's agriculture around the northern and around the edges of it that the runoff went into it, and so it literally poisoned all the fish that then poisoned all the birds. And so when you
so
go to
like
visit, it's
nothing's living there. Yeah.
nothing. There's birds and stuff. There is habitat, but it's really toxic there, so you don't see a lot of it. And the shoreline is a combination of like salt. The water's so salty, salt, and then also just broken bones of birds and fish. It's not
Ugh.
sand. And there's people living there. There's Salton City, where Isa and Cole are from, which is on the west side of the Salton Sea, on the kind of Palm Springs sides, and it's a little bit more of a it's a very small town, but a little bit more structured as a town. And then on the east side is Bombay Beach and Nyland and a few other areas that are just a small town. There is like electricity and grid at Bombay Beach, but if you go further down, there's some real like squatter towns where people don't have any electricity or water. And then there's also art interventions everywhere. It's a magical, bizarre, scary, horrifying place because the ecological collapse is just there. And everyone who lives around it is getting cancer because it's toxic. And it's just, and now it's also, they're not trying to save it anymore because there's lithium underneath it. And so they're going to try to mine the lithium. It's like
Of
called gold
course.
rush. So that's causing another on top of the already crisis of,
And this is like what's happening right now.
yep, right now.
So it's based off of, yeah, because oh my God, just knowing that so it's like implying that's why Dane developed his. But then you said Dane's history, like he had AIDS and he was like already expecting to not. live that long, but then he did. Um, and okay, it's crazy that makes it, like, so much more interesting, because 'cause I'm still, like, this book is still marinating in my brain. I'm still, like, sitting with my feelings after finishing it. So, even after all that, it's because I'm even looking at the pictures, and I could totally see, okay, we're just gonna deal like, corporate greed, we don't need to get into all that, but or government greed, whatever. Yeah, it's like, say less. So, yeah, so hopping off of that, maybe switching gears a little bit, touching on another thing that you incorporated was a big part of Issa and who, like, how she is really discovering who she is, where her path she's most comfortable with or what she would follow. Because I think right from the get-go, like, reflecting on, like, her relationship with her boyfriend in New York, and he's, like, a New Yorker, and he's, like, close with his family, and it's, like, not that there's anything wrong with that, it was just, like, she does not know what that's like. She was very different, she's almost, like, the exact opposite on that end of the spectrum where she's broken and traumatic, and she had a traumatic upbringing and things that happened that shouldn't happen to anybody. Well, he's just, like, very close with his family, and they keep in touch, and they do things, and so he was, like, insisting on having certain habits or having certain, like, behaviors, and she was just like, "Okay." She was like, "This is not me at all," but she was going along with it, and I guess I was a little surprised to learn how long they'd been together because they were so different, but and then when things progressed the way they did, I guess I was on the fence about Merce because at one point I was like, "Come on, dude," but then at another point I was like, "No, I get it. I understand him to a certain point, but he also needed to just move on." It was
Yeah.
like so I wanna explore, like, that undertone, incorporating that, like, the different upbringings and how that played into her story, her journey here that you gave us, and also while how readers might connect to that.
Yeah, I think it does. I don't say this in the book, but I think Issa, like the reason why she would want to be with someone like Merce is because of that stability, because he does have that family, like all the things she didn't have, he has.
Yeah.
There's this desire for her to be connected to that, to have it too. And then there's a lot of hints in the book that, like, no matter that she's been with him for a while, she's still held at a very arm's distance from his family, by his family. There's an allusion to the fact that he doesn't even take her to meet them, like, for a long time, because you can't just bring anyone home. And then, yeah, at some point, his sister has a birthday party, and just the way that his sister interacts with her, you can tell, like, the family hasn't really embraced her. Like, they're propping up their son. They really want him to be doing well.
And at this point, I think it was just or was it 8 months ago that they met her, or was it took 8 months to meet her?
Like 8 months to meet her. So they knew
Okay.
for a couple of years at that point. And so, yeah, like, but no,
And they were still not yeah.
wanted from that in that sense, she also didn't get what she wanted from that relationship, that she didn't get the family dynamic that she had been never had when she was growing up.
Or well, that she was comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit, but then I think what happens after that, as she finds family members that are her family members, and then also as she builds her, like, chosen family after they do split up finally, then that's she finally said. So there's a commentary on what family is too. Like, it's not just the people who are your immediate family, obviously, but the people who you bring into your life to be your family. I think are equally important. I think, but yeah, she's really the other thing with Merce is that Merce is, like, going back to the sort of capitalism, which we won't go down that road, but there's a lot to say there. But he's the metaphor for that. He really embodies it. They didn't start off at the same place, because he's always been a little bit more advanced than her, but she just does talk about how he was a little bit more like low rung Merce when she met him, and then he worked his way up in his company, and how she just doesn't recognize him as this kind of striver that she didn't, like, really intend to be with. And when it challenges her, because he wants her to be that way too, but she really doesn't want to participate in that. And that's my own, like, this is the structure we live in. We live in this neoliberalist capitalist society, but it's also what's destroying the planet, and it's also what's destroying humanity and society and community. And that relationship allowed me to, like, force those two things to be head to head. And even though, like, it plays out in a relationship between two people, it's really a relationship about two ideas.
Absolutely, because yeah, like I said, I her kind of upbringing or maybe just her mentality, not like I don't think I know anybody who's been through anything traumatic like her, but it reminds me of a couple people who are very close to me in my life who maybe, who haven't followed a straight path, who are just like figuring things out still, even if they're not in their teens, not in their 20s even anymore. Cause I'm like, I'm going to be 40 next year. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on things. But again, it's like, I know people who are not so much like her, where they're like reading tarot cards or like bouncing back and forth, but maybe who are just like doing what works right now.
Yeah.
And I don't I guess I was, maybe that's why I had a kind of just not like sympathy, but I was just rooting for her and being like, no, it's okay. It's okay if you're not fitting into this little box that Merce has, he himself has grown into.
Mhm.
And that's, again, Merce, it's okay that you are in this box and that your girlfriend is not in this box. That's okay. But it was after, even after 4 years, he still wasn't like really listening to her.
Yeah.
And then it's like an indication of like, buddy, I understand if it's just like relationships are so complicated. People, our brains and our emotions and how we react to things are so complicated. So I thought that was a fun, interesting thing to witness in that book or follow in that book because I didn't like hate Merce. I was just annoyed with like, dude, Issa can kind of sense. She even sensed like, oh, I think he's gonna leave me before she sensed the change,
Yeah.
before things. And so that was like, I think I was just trusting Issa's like intuition at that point, and I was like, okay, so this is gonna happen. Like I have a sense, I have a feeling of this, I have a feeling of that. I was like, I am just going to just expect that now because that's everything that you say or you feel happens one way or the other. But as far as that relationship goes, I think like all of us, like a lot of readers can relate to that.
Yeah.
I think that in particular will resonate a lot where it's like they're just people who grow apart, and it's really sometimes as simple as that. As complicated as that could be and nuanced, it really is as simple as that, as like they grew apart. And I think one person realized it and the other didn't, or he was like, I understand he felt betrayed because I was like, dude, like you don't understand. But as a reader, we're in her head and
Yeah.
he's not. We're
Yeah.
not in his head where he's like, I never knew this about you. You always kept me at arm's length. Like you were always, I felt like there was something holding you back. And now I know that's something holding you back. And so he couldn't deal with it. And then he was just, spoiler alert, he was blowing up her phone. And like, I love how her brother was, and I love Amber. I'm going to give a shout out to Amber. Again, I'm going to be all over the place. How her brother was like, okay, does he really need to come all the way out here? Amber's like, why can't he just say these things on the phone? And I was like, I know, right? Like, I'm like hearing myself, like, I love Cole, I love Amber. And then Issa is just like, I could also feel for her too, where she was like in a hard spot. She was just like, I know, but I feel like I can't tell him to kick rocks right now. Like I found that because there was a certain point where it's like the story was you paced it so well, but then there were some points where I was like, why is she going through this? Or why did you make the choice to have your character go through this? And then it was, okay, no, now I see it. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, no, and I was like, I want to trust you. I want to trust your choice. So no, that was another point where she was just going through so much. And then this one part like wouldn't leave her alone, and I love that she finally spoke up and was like, if you still didn't call, like you knew all that, you found out all this that I was going through, because it's like all this shit he didn't ask. He knew about something was going on like with her best friend. He knew something was happening, like that she was going through something, but then he didn't follow up on it and he didn't ask. And then once he did find out, he didn't ask and he didn't go to her. And then it was like he couldn't move past his own self. And I'm like, it's again, like I understood like it's hard to move, like consider other people's reasoning when you're going through like your own pain, when you're feeling betrayed or wronged. And just again, my own rant going through that whole relationship.
Yeah.
I don't fault you for the choices that you made, that you put them both through.
I think Merce comes back at some point, and I think I think Issa allows it because like she has recognized that she was a mess when before she left New York. Everything was like turned upside down. I think it's her moment to like really be sure that she's making the right decisions, and so what's slowly happening in the book, hopefully if I did it well, is that she stops leaning on, like, she uses tarot as a way to try to tell her what to do or what's happening, and also her intuition, which, as we know, can be a little bit off. So my hope is that sort of as the book progresses, like she's not leaning on it in a personal way as much. She uses it for some other reasons as the book progresses, but at the beginning she's using it really about herself. Like, what am I even feeling? Pulling a card to understand that. And that's really purposeful because she actually can't process like her own feelings because she's so deeply entrenched in all of these issues. And so it's a subtle transformation in that way that she stops leaning on these outside things, but she also needs to verify that, yeah, I'm making the right decisions, because now she doesn't have kind of this crutch that's not obviously even a real crutch, but it is something that people use these kinds of like tools and to try to just understand what's happening or tell them something about themselves. And they're not, obviously a deck of cards is not going to do that, but there is something psychological that happens with things like tarot where people want to hear some sense of like things are going to be okay or what to do. They lean on these outside sources. So there's a reason why that's why tarot exists in it, because I think it's fascinating. I love tarot personally, but I
I
also,
was gonna say, like, I would do wanna piggyback off of that, like, your research into all of that. I don't wanna interrupt your thought, but that's
yeah.
something I wanna know about.
Yeah, I've been interested in tarot for, I don't know, just a long time. It's just because it's an ancient thing and it's so fascinating to me. But I also don't think it was ever meant to be like a tool that's like, predict your future. I think it's meant to like help you understand where you're at a certain moment and to figure out what
Right.
to do. Right. And then it kind of got conflated with all kinds of other things. But as a tool, I think it's a fascinating psychological tool, I think.
It's
It's cool.
I think I did it once, my friend was getting into it, and I think it happened where I was like, "Oh, think of something that you're worried about, think of something that you're thinking, think of something that you wanna know." And I was trying to think of something, but there was something else that I was really more concerned about, and I feel like I could tell, like, my answers reflected the thing that I was truly so at the time, I was like
some otherworldly thing, but it's really just your brain doing. There's a very subtle thing in the book at the beginning where, because I think of these things like tarot as like keys, right? Like the cards are unlocking parts of the way that you're thinking. And so there's a moment at the beginning of the book where her best friend Lizzie has all these keys and she's like joking around because she can never find the one that actually
yeah.
the thing she wants it to do, which is a metaphor for this idea of like seeking these things that aren't necessarily going to really unlock things. You have to really understand yourself and do the work, right? There's only been one other person who's read it and picked that up and said to me like, is that what the keys and idea of like hoarding keys? And I'm like, yes. A lot of little snuck in things in this book, and it's been really exciting when people have found, and it's interesting to see who finds what and what they reflect back to me has been really thrilling. But a friend just did that and I was like, I'm so
That's so fun.
pleased.
You're like, "Yay, it happened, someone did that."
I think as authors, we do that. We sneak stuff into our stories and then hope that people are like questioning it enough. I'm hoping the book hopefully stands enough on its own to just read as an enjoyable enough book. But I think there's depth to it that if people want to go deeper, and if you want to go really deep into like thinking about the climate themes, like there's everything in that book is very purposeful and metaphorical, including Issa herself. There's a depth of engagement that I was trying to aim for with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that definitely came across, and I imagine it's a tricky balance, right? Because like, there's a story that you wanna tell, and there's a really powerful journey,
Yeah.
that your character goes through, but then you also want to stress some other things, and yeah, no, I feel like you started off with the whales, and I was like, "You know what? Yeah, like, yeah, what about the whales?" Because 'Cause I'm very sensitive to the dying planet. Like, again, I have 2 little boys, and I'm like, "Oh god." Like, that's part of the reason why I didn't wanna have a third was because I was like, "I don't know if it's a good idea."
Yeah.
It's just something to seriously think about.
I mean, I
So,
didn't have any children for that same reason. I've been worried about like I remember the ozone issue. That was like formative time of my life when the ozone was literally being depleted and there was all of this worry. And that was the first that changed me as a kid. Like that's all it took. And ever since,
good for you. I don't think I realized this until, like or I didn't understand the seriousness of it until I was in my late 20s, maybe, like, 10 years ago, and even then, it's like, Al Gore was right this whole he tried warning us so long ago, and then as I get older, I'm, like, learning all these things, like, okay, a lot of people who were making the effects, the greenhouse gases, the oil companies, they knew, and
yeah,
they've made it a point to shut all that information down, to block any sort of legislation that would have protected the planet or protected our future. It's like, this is there's no planet B. And
no,
so I appreciate that you pointed that out. It was like you added that commentary because
yeah,
I don't know if it's just like it's such a big problem that it's really hard for humans as a whole to grasp.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, I feel like I embody it. I feel this sort of destruction, but also I did a lot of like as far as research goes, like one of the areas I researched the most for the book was that history of climate change, which really yes gets
Oh god, how
real time, but
I
it's
hope you were taking care of yourself while researching that, because that could be such a depressing topic.
it is, but it was fascinating because it's obviously it starts really like with the colonization of America because the native people, the way that they were so tuned into sustainability and care of nature, and also just the way that they like the idea of exchange and the way that they cared for each other through that. There wasn't capitalism, and then when they were colonized, it was literally became illegal for them to not participate in capitalism. Like they were not allowed to just freely trade anymore, and so all of and all that extractivism that came with it. So there's a little bit of like a hint of indigeneity in the book as well that kind of drives back to this idea of like what was originally here, who was
Yeah.
originally here, and what were their practices, and then also just how that erasure happened. There's a very big conversation about identity in this book and how the sort of like colonization has erased identity in a way that Issa doesn't even know what her background is because she never knew who her father was because her mom died at childbirth and her father was a passing through situation. She doesn't even know where she like what her roots are, and she learns them, and then you learn this is again how I can use her as a character as a site for
Yeah.
conversations.
'Cause that's why you made her mom, like, such a I don't know if the reader is supposed to have mixed feelings about her mom, and
Yeah.
even through, like, her bio dad's current girlfriend, like, I wanted personally, I wanted them to have a little bit more of a confrontation because she like, Issa picked up on
Oh,
that Laura was uncomfortable, she had certain thoughts that she let one thought slip through. It was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like a messy queen where I'm just like, I'm supporting women toxicity, even like I just support female rage in any form. So for her to be like, another spoiler friendly where maybe not spoilery, but even she was just like, yeah, let's just pretend that she was wonderful. I was just like, I mean, she's not wrong. Like everything that we're learning about her mom, about Aisa and Nicole's mom, does point to someone who was like not stable and not responsible and making poor choices and continuing to not make good choices. And unfortunately, she passed away before she could maybe learn to make better choices. Because it's like you imply, I won't say you imply through other characters, and as the more that Cole and Issa are learning about their mom's life, we get the gist that their mom maybe would have been on that path
yeah.
to learning better, to recognizing and to maybe ready to make those actions that would have made up for things or to do the right thing. And then that opportunity just didn't happen for her.
Yeah, and
I don't want to say it was taken away from her because it's not fair. It was just that just didn't happen for her. And it was
she's so young in the book. She has Cole when she's like it's like 20.
like 20. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and she's on her own. She's got Dane, who's her best friend, but she's on her own in this very remote area. And so I had to keep thinking, like, what would you really do? Like, what would you do at that age? That is that age where you tend to be more selfish when you're 20, 21 years old.
Your world is still a little small.
Yeah.
Like, and you're not, like I said, prefrontal cortex. You're not thinking
Right.
with the big picture in mind. You're not thinking of the future, of the consequences of, yeah, this seems like, not to say her decision was small, but even like if I'm thinking through my own teenage, it's like, yeah, this was a decision, but then it had a ripple effect that affected, blew up a little bit bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, wrapping up on that topic, yeah, we feel for her, and maybe there's like again a lot of that will resonate with readers where we she was so young and she didn't get the chance, and it is part of it's crazy to kind of juxtapose that with like the big picture that you have also going on.
Yeah.
Because it's also like very specific to this character's story, to this one pocket, but then you realize like, oh, there's ripple effects that Janelle, her mom, had. And because I loved Cole's take on it. He's like, "Are we gonna find out that we have like 5 siblings?"
Cole is like, he's okay, whatever at that point, you know?
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, here, another house, another visit, another phone
Yeah.
call, another like." But I loved that. Just trusted her.
Yeah.
He was like, he knew from being her brother that he knew. He's like, no, like usually she's on it.
Yeah.
Like no matter what she has, if it doesn't make sense, he needs to trust it. He's learned that a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I love that she at least had him
Yeah.
because and then meeting Aaron where he was just like, we don't really know. I don't know if it wasn't very clear, but we don't know how much he knows. But he even like maybe if she sounded a little kooky or a little like vague, he was just going with it. He's like, yeah, I get it. I was like,
Right.
oh,
He's really laid back.
I was like, oh, I love that when she had so many mixed feelings too. But I was like, I think she knew like that's that path, like follow that because wherever like she wants to go, even if she didn't want to follow any like if she didn't want to get into any relationship, like she said, any natural place that would have taken her natural path, he would have been there.
Yeah.
So I loved that for her. I loved it absolutely. So I love asking this. It's a two-parter. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
Ooh, most challenging. I would say most challenging was probably around her friendship with Lizzie. And like I mentioned, trying to figure out what to do with that and how to navigate it. When I wrote the scene, their last night together, where they're laying on the couch together, was probably the saddest thing I've written in a long time. And it was really emotional. And I remember thinking like, maybe I should take this out or tone it down because it's so emotional. And my editor was like, no, we're like, leave that stuff in. And I remember just feeling like, okay, it's a really heartbreaking moment. So I think that was the hardest because I also have experienced loss in my life, not to the extent that she has, but it reignited a lot of like my own sadness over a couple of people I've lost in my life. And like anytime you write about heavy themes like that,
Yeah.
you trigger yourself a bit. So that was probably the hardest part. The funnest part was really researching the Salton Sea because again, like I saw Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations when he went out there. And so I was always like for literally, oh my God, probably 7 years, I studied it before I ever got to go see it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
So
this was a thing for you.
yeah, I was obsessed with it. And then my dad lives out in he lives like in Temecula, which is if you're going from LA out there, you will go through there. Couple years ago, I convinced my dad and stepmom to go out there with me. And so we went out and we were just we're such an incredible experience. And then subsequently, I found out that I have friends who like participate in art biennials. So there's a whole thing happening out there. But it was really, I know it sounds weird to say fun because it is an ecological disaster zone, but it was fun just to like dig into that level of research because you have to
Yeah.
research all your books, but like that kind of research is different. It was so fascinating. And like I found so many interesting historic books about that area. And I've always been like totally intrigued. My dad moved to California when I was like 6 or 7. I grew up in Michigan. And so the first time I ever went to California, I was very young. And I remember just being like, this is a totally different planet. Like, this is wild. And nobody else had gone to Michigan or gone
Yeah.
to, you're like, no, like,
Yeah.
there's always been
I'm
something.
from a suburb of Chicago, and I've traveled here and there just in the United States. I've made other countries too, but I totally get it where you're like, "Oh, it's like almost a little culture shock even though you're still in the same country."
Yeah. And it's amazing that feeling to be, and then to feel like that was also a little bit of home to me and like really get to spend time, like not only Salton City, but and my sister's in Northern California. So I've got this California connection.
Oh, yeah.
We really get into like the setting of California because I haven't set a book there before. It was really fun.
I know it was funny how you were like, "Okay, we're gonna go to Fresno, and then we're gonna start at Salton City, we're gonna go to Fresno, and then we're gonna go to like this area off of this town." And I was like, "That yeah, it's hours of driving."
Hours.
It's hours of driving, even though it's just like you're in the same state. California is wild like that because I remember taking a trip years ago where we were like had like a double wedding. It was like one each. The two weddings were in California a week apart, And so we're like, "Oh, perfect." And then I have family in California. So we were like, "Okay, let's like visit them in between." But it was really funny because we were like, "Oh, GPS says 2 hours." And then because of LA traffic, because it was straight up Anaheim to like San Diego.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, 2 hours." It turned into 4 hours. And I
Oh,
was just
yeah.
texting them like, "I'm so sorry." And I feel like they expected it.
Yeah.
They were like, "It's all good. It's okay. Just like get here when you get here."
Yeah. I've done that.
They were gonna say like, "No, you're wrong. You're not gonna get here in 2 hours."
No,
Yeah.
LA will change all your good timing.
Absolutely. It's like I got like a firsthand experience of that, the joke, right? Like the real life thing. Okay, so I'm gonna do something a little fun, a
Okay.
little bit for our one of the last questions. Okay, so I'm gonna say think of Issa, Aaron. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Issa, Aaron, Merce, Cole, and Marnie.
Okay.
Who would win in a Hot Wings challenge?
Ah! I would say I feel like it's gonna be Cole. I feel like Cole could do it. Yeah. I wanna say Marnie, but I feel like it might upset her stomach. So we're gonna
Maybe a little bit. Maybe, like, she wouldn't really know any better, but she would go for it.
yeah.
So, like, where would they rank? Where would the rest rank? Because I don't get the impression that they're, like, competitive really, but,
Right.
like, how long do you think the rest of them would last?
I don't know. That is such a good question. I feel like Issa could probably hold on for a while. Wait, was she one of the original? Now I'm trying to remember who you said. Aaron could probably.
So, yeah, Marnie, Issa, Aaron, Cole, and Merce.
Okay, Merce is definitely not going to win.
Even growing up in New York or living in New York, he doesn't try that spicy stuff?
Actually, I do talk about him eating. Like it was funny when I read this, like kind of final time through. I was like, oh, I mentioned Indian food a lot. And I love Indian food, and so I'm like, so yeah, Merce does eat biryani at some point, so he might be able to handle it.
Yeah, Indian food is very much flavorful,
Yeah,
packed with anything that you could think of,
right.
but, it's good, but it's just also like, okay, like, I remember because my husband is an engineer and he works with a lot of Indian people. Whenever we're invited to things, it's like I like it, but there's, like, certain dishes where I know I'm gonna like, and I like spicy food,
Yeah,
but then it's like, okay, if my kids are invited, this is not American enough for them. So where would Marnie land on that?
I feel like Marnie. Maybe she's in the middle. I feel like Cole and Issa, they eat tacos at some point. Like they're a little spicy. Like they like their mezcal, they like their
'Cause I was gonna
tacos.
growing up in California, I feel like you could handle a certain amount.
Yeah, I think Marnie's my only reason with Marnie is because she's very low income, and so she's used to eating like vegetables out of the community garden. Like
Yeah,
I think her palate is probably less tolerant to the spicy.
it's very, like, natural, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't have a
Aaron
lot
could
of
probably do well too. Aaron would probably do pretty good.
he would just go with it.
Amber could actually probably win the whole thing. Was she part of
I
the?
was gonna say I was gonna, like, say throw Amber in there because I feel like she's just, like, such a gem, and she seems, like, just so perfect and, like, rescuing them in the most awkward moments, like, she was their rock, they needed her
Yeah,
to kind of fit the awkward moments or to be like, just fill in those spaces of not even just, like, the awkward dinners, but also, like, in the serious moments too, like, "Oh, what's your favorite memory?" Like, just something simple like that where she just and even Issa was like, she just met this woman and she's like, "She's so good at this."
yeah,
Like, "She's so good at this." And then she said, "Cole, like, better not let her go." And he's like, "I know." And that's what I was like, Cole has his little swoony moments, even though we're seeing him through the eyes of his sister. He has those little moments where he's just like, he's head over heels. And I love the moments where you throw in where Amber was like, "Oh, it took him a year to ask me out to make it official." And he's like, "No, it was a couple months. I just had to make sure you weren't with me for my body."
yeah. He's
I
kind
love that. It just makes you love Cole that much more, where he's like, no, he's like kind of like brushing it off, like, yeah, I'm head o like I just like you could tell like, okay, it was because you were nervous,
of totally.
because you were like so like into her, but because they said like, oh, he would come for a drink like 6 times a day just to talk to me. I'm like, I love that. Love that. Like, that he found his person and that I guess I just love seeing characters out of their element, like,
Yeah,
in a challenge where it's, like, so awkward, but if they want it, they have to be put in that uncomfortable situation. I love it.
yeah.
I love it. I will always be an advocate for throwing shit at swoony men. Okay, so Kerri Schlottman, what are you working on anything that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, I have two other completed manuscripts, so hopefully something will come of them. It's interesting because I thought one of them might be published before this one, but this one was favorited by my agent when she looked at them. But I have a novel about my hometown, which is in like semi-rural Michigan. It's another dark story, but it's about the radicalization of some of the young girls in that area, especially around the presidential election in 2020.
Ooh, I bet that would have been fun.
Yeah, so there's been a little bit of like, what's the right timing for this book?
Yeah.
We're still figuring that. It's called The Ballad of Lawless Girls, and I'm hoping it might be the next book that comes out. I'm also just finished a first draft on a book that's about a heart transplant, which is a totally different kind of thing for me to write about, but the heart is one of the characters in the book. So
Okay.
we'll see if that one might end up bumping up. We'll see. And then I have another completed manuscript that's about a kind of like, maybe this is my way of working out the fact that like all these corporate grocery chains are moving into our neighborhood and displacing the mom and pops. But it's about a corporate grocery store that moves into a small town and threatens to displace the kind of family mom and pop shop there. And then this big corporate chain like throws sweepstakes to try to get people to come in because people are protesting it. And they accidentally make everyone the winner instead of one winner. So, and then this whole like mayhem ensues in the community.
So is that a little bit more lighter
Yeah,
than
that one's
yeah.
definitely more like probably the lightest thing I've written.
I think if that's if you deserve a little lightness in your
And
projects,
I
just
feel like I need
saying.
to prove that I can do it. I'm like, yeah. So
Like, I promise I'm not all doom and gloom.
the heart book is also light. It has some humor. So we'll see which one ends up being next. Yeah. Like it's
Perfect.
not up to me.
Oh, I am here for it no matter
Oh,
what.
thank you.
Kerri Schlottman, where can we find you online and on social media?
I am on social media at my first name, KerriSchlottman. I'm just on Instagram. That's my fave. And I have a website, my first and last name. And yeah, that's where I am.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of. Even just like how we're circling back to your original conversation where it's just a lot to do, where you wanna hit all those points, so I get it. Like, Instagram is
Yeah.
I find it more fun. I
Me
find it more fun.
I'm very visual. I work with my non-writing work. I work with artists, so it tends to be where like I've got my writers there now. They were all on X, and then everyone moved over finally to Instagram. But all my
Or the threads, like
yeah,
yeah.
and then the artists
Oh, I love that.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but it's just like I have like 100 followers because it's just my family. Because I share much, and I'm like, all right, I'm over here sharing really personal stuff, so I keep that
Yeah.
one down.
Yeah, I feel like Facebook is a lot like for the older generation who are still on it for when it first came out. Like, I was there when it first came out in college, and I don't care, showing my age, I don't care, but yeah, it's kinda like you gotta learn what audience you wanna reach on that platform.
That's
Like, exactly. So, it's tricky, but woe is the digital age. Daytime Moon on May 12th. Kerri, thank you so much for joining me today. Such a fun conversation. Again, like, I will recommend this book for people who are prepared for some serious things, but also it's well paced. And I guess what genre does it fall into? Like domestic fiction,
it's literally
contemporary? Yeah, literary, where it's just like you're gonna think and you're gonna feel things. You might be mad about it, but you'll be grateful. I don't know. Yeah, it was a good read. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to read it and to talk to you about it. And if and when you are ready to talk or release these potential other titles, feel free to come back. I'd love to chat with you again.
Thank you so much. This has been so great. I really love that conversation.
And there you go. That was Kerri Schlottman talking about her book, Daytime Moon. That book is available now. Check out the show notes to see links where you can find Kerri online and on social media and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you'll also see where to find Cantina Book Club on your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate it if you could hit a follow or subscribe button so that you never miss out on book reviews and interviews. If you have any book loving friends who are looking to get more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they can find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head over your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating and review. It helps me reach more potential listeners and book lovers like you. And that goes for any podcast that you listen to. It's one of the easiest things that you could do to help out. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always excited to share my recent favorites or suggestions based on any genre. Or you can head on over to cantinabookclub.com to read more in-depth book reviews. And while you're at it, you could subscribe by entering your email on the website so that you could get new reviews and author interviews directly to your inbox. And if you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you could donate by finding the form on cantinabookclub.com. Whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month, I seriously appreciate the support and will share my appreciation by giving you a shout out on the show. And finally, one of the best ways to help authors promote their works is to head over to Amazon Goodreads, Storycraft, BookBub, pretty much almost any platform that you could think of that where you rate books, and head on over, find your favorite author, find the book that you love, and give it a rating review. It helps them get their work out into the world, and it's pretty easy to do. And it helps pretty much almost as much as pre-orders and shouting on social media. As always, thanks so much for listening, and see you next time. Cheers.